Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. A talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have the impressive Magdalene Patricia Balloy. And we're going to be discussing her incredible poetry book, God is Seated in Man's Soul to Bear Fruit to His Unconditional Love. It's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, it's a lot of other places, man, but most importantly, check out her personal website, and that's going to be her name, very straightforward, MagdalenePatriciaBalloy.com. There, you're going to gather more information on her books, hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing pages, man, I'm telling you, one-stop shop. And notice, a moment ago, I referenced books, plural, all right? There are two other books that Magdalene has written. One is entitled Beyond the Darkness, My Transforming Journey with Jesus, followed by Beyond the Mystic Veil. Hope is evident. Again, it's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, but most importantly, MagdalenePatriciaBalloy.com. And I quickly want to take this opportunity and point out the fact that she was brought to us by Citi of Books. So for my writers out there, if you've gone through your process and now you find yourself needing some assistance moving that book that you just finished developing, head on over to cityofbooks.com so you can gather all of the ways that their fantastic team is going to help you do just that. And listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Magdalene here on the line. People, what if the language of divinity wasn't found in a textbook, but actually in the rhythm of a poem? Now follow me here. I love that question, and I think it's a very interesting one to examine, and something that Magdalene herself believes, because she believes the most profound truth, and that is that God's love is seated within each of us. And that just happens to be a story that is best told through verse. And she's here to share her journey from what she categorizes from a sad life of darkness into a transformative light, and how that compels her to see the world with radical compassion. Trust me when I tell you, her book of poetry, man, it's more than a book, people. It is more than a literary creation. It is an invitation to listen for that sacred whisper within all of us. Sit back, strap in. We're going to explore some of the poetry today, but by the time we've concluded, you're going to need to purchase your copy so that you can get them all. Magdalene, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you for being here with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Benji, and I'm so happy to be sharing this with you. And I thank you for what you said. I realize that you did read some of my poetry, and you understand it, because most of the time people don't understand the depth poet goes into to write a verse. And what happened with me is that after I had this expression, this invitation to enter into God's light, and my whole life was changed, I felt the embrace of God in my life, and that I couldn't just speak about it in normal language. When I felt I just wanted to express it from deep within my soul. And so this book, as the readers will understand as they read it, it's an unfolding journey with Jesus through my spiritual growth. Absolutely. And from the beginning to the end, it explains it. Thank you for that. You really do understand, and I appreciate it.
Listen, Magdalene, I got a secret to tell you. I just followed the roadmap that you let down, okay? So I'm following your lead, although I appreciate the kind words. You had to lay down such a wonderful map for myself and my team to follow, and you did just that. So we really appreciate it. And thank you for everything that you said, because it sets up my follow-up question perfectly, because I love your poetry. I love what you're talking about. But what is interesting here is, listen, poetry is often described as the language of the soul. And I believe it, right? As someone who has never been poetically gifted himself, I'm following it, girl. I love it, okay? But I'm curious to know, why was articulating this message in verse essential for this testimony as opposed to writing everything in prose?
And on my first book, Beyond the Darkness, which you mentioned, it was written in a language that everyone can understand. But at the end of each chapter, I would share my feelings about what I had just explained in the chapter, and it turned out to be a poem. So most of these poems that I have in this book are in my other two books, but it was at the end of a chapter of an explanation of my life. But this one, the Lord just wanted me to put it together as poetry, and so that He feels that it would be a book that people would keep. It would be like a keepsake, and every once in a while they could pull it out and read the poem again, and it will bring happiness or the love of God into their lives by understanding what I was trying to write through the verse.
Magdalene, I said it in my intro, but of course I didn't create it myself. It's things that we pulled from your book of poetry. It's the metaphor of moving from darkness to light. And I love it. Listen, it's powerful, it's visceral, but it also isn't something new. This is ancient, and this has been utilized a number of times. And I want to now take that and pose it here in my next question. In your journey, I'm curious to know, was the visit from Jesus that you talk about, was it something that led you out in a sudden or even dramatic event, or was it more of a long, drawn-out process that kind of gradually broke after this long night?
Yes, it was gradual, but along, as I explained to you briefly before, after Jesus came into my life, I felt the love of God.
Yeah.
Before, I believed in Jesus, and I believed He was the Son of God, and I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school, but I never had a relationship with Him. And part of the reason for that is that I was not married in the church. I was married, my husband was married before, and in the Catholic faith, you can't, if you're married in the church, and he was, and you're divorced, you cannot remarry in the church. But so after I got married, I felt that I had somehow disappointed Jesus. And so I didn't feel close to Him. I felt that I had done something wrong. So therefore, that night when He appeared to me, I wasn't praying to Him. I was praying to God the Father in heaven and asking Him, please, to save my life for the sake of my very young children. I didn't want to leave them motherless.
Yeah.
So that's when He appeared to me. When I thought I was falling asleep, that I didn't fall asleep. I had a death experience. I came out of my body, and He was standing at the foot of my bed, and with arms extended as if He was telling me, come to me. But I said, no, Lord, I want to stay. Please let me stay. I don't want to go yet. And that's when I ended up in the hospital for 11 days, thinking all the while that I was going to die. I was dying. I thought to myself, I hadn't shared this vision with anyone because I thought they're going to know that I'm dying, and I don't want to know I'm dying. But when I came, I realized He had given me a new experience to live with. And everything, Benji, was different. The flowers were brighter. The sky was bluer. The German Shepherd that used to irritate me, I just loved him. The love of Christ came out of me. And that's when I started writing poetry. And then in the first part of the book, I explained my first poem, how it was like being asleep in the snow in a long winter's night. But now that I'm awake, the sun is warm and bright. And though my body has become a part of this earth, my soul is the shell that has embraced the seed. That was what I felt. I was like in a cold, dark place. I couldn't see the light of God. But when He came into my life and brought me into His light, He transformed me so that I could see with my spiritual eyes what I couldn't see before. Everything was the same. It wasn't any different. But I changed. And people around me changed. So that's where the journey with the poem started. So I don't know if I answered the question in the way that you would want me to answer it, but
no,
that's
listen.
what I...
Magdalene, you answered it better than I could have anticipated. Because what you're talking about is something that resonates profoundly. It resonates with me, and I know it resonates with my listening audience. And before I move on to my next question, I'm just going to take the opportunity, people, because I just want to make sure you haven't forgotten, okay? It's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, but most importantly, MagdalenePatriciaBalloy.com. It starts with this book, God is Seated in Man's Soul, but it doesn't end there. All right. Now, the other two books may have been written first, but I'm still going to say it starts with God is Seated in Man's Soul, because that's the latest and greatest, and that's the one you want to pick up. But look into Beyond the Darkness, my transforming journey with Jesus, as well as Beyond the Mystic Veil, Hope is Evident. Again, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, MagdalenePatriciaBalloy.com. That's where you got to go. Now, my follow-up, Magdalene, is, listen, you talked about something incredible a moment ago. You're talking about being asleep and being awoken and having this, it's almost a birth that happened, right? Where now you're just this, you're revitalized in a way and you're seeing things through a whole new light. And of course, that light is coming specifically from the guiding light of Jesus. And it plays perfectly into my follow-up question because, you know, Magdalene, a lot of people listening in right now, and I know a lot of people that are going to read your poetry book, they feel that the seed within their soul is dormant, right? Or buried, and they're not sure how to access it. And I know you can relate because you had similar experiences. So I want to ask you, as a word of advice to pay forward to them, what is the first gentle step that they could take to help that seed within them grow?
Yes. Most people who are Christian know parts of the Bible. And one of the things that Jesus taught when he was on earth with his disciples, he said, we must bear fruit. And I wondered through, how do you bear fruit? Coming into that place of knowing that you're loved. And God, the creator of the universe, placed his seed of love within each soul. But it's there, it's in the dirt, but you have to nourish it. And how do you nourish it? If you put a seed in the ground, but you don't water it and fertilize it, well, we nourish it by getting into the Word, by realizing none of us are perfect. And Jesus also said, ye must be perfect as the Father in heaven is perfect. And for a long time I wondered, how can I be perfect? Nobody can be perfect. But his perfection is talking about love. We can all be perfect in love. We don't have to agree with one another. We don't have to see it. But he's calling us all to be perfect in love. And this morning, I usually do the Mass on my phone every morning. And this morning, they were asking Jesus, which is the best commandment? And the first one is love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and your neighbor as yourself. Benji, if we live in a state of love, understanding, and forgiveness, we would have a beautiful world because we're all God's children. And so that's where I'm coming from. But you have to put the work in. You just plant a seed in the ground and you want a rose bush to grow. It's not going to grow. You got to nurture it. It's the same thing with our soul, our heart. So anyway, that's my answer.
Magdalene, I love what you're saying. And listen, I feel compelled. And honestly, I would feel remiss if we didn't now take everything that we're learning from you. Not only look inwardly, but also utilizing it outwardly. Because, listen, I don't think I'm saying anything that's going to surprise anybody here. But you look around the world. You look around our country right now. The perception is, now whether or not that actually is, and I believe it is to a certain degree, but the perception is we are more divided than ever before. And I look I have conversations a lot of times because, listen, I've always been the type of person, like, I'll live and let live, man. Like, I have friends from all walks of life in my family and my inner circle and everything. So for me, I don't care what your political views are. You can be on the left, you can be on the right. Doesn't matter to me. as long as we're operating from a
Right.
perspective of respect and love and
Yes.
compassion, listen, man, I'm live and let live. I'm good with it. But you look at where we currently are in society, and there is a lot of division. There is a lot of hatred being spewed. And I then look at, and here's the ironic thing is I know a lot of people that are of Christian faith or of Catholic faith, and you learn about this message of God in loving thy neighbor, and then you look around, you're like, Magdalene, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of loving thy neighbor that's happening right now. So
That is absolutely true.
listen, so it ties back into your book, right? Because your book and your poetry, you speak of sharing the good news. And I love it. But in a world that is saturated with news and most of it bad, how can we share this good news in a way that feels authentic, it feels refreshing and truly transformative rather than just more noise?
Yes, I have to bring this up because it's very important. The God is seated in my soul is my first that I got awarded for that poem. But the reason I wrote that poem, this is very important. Back in my 30s, when I was raising my kids, I would read Ladies' Home Journal and all these magazines. In Ladies' Journal, I remembered, there was an article that said, God is dead or he never existed. I read that and I was so infatuated with that statement that I wanted to write a letter to the publisher. But instead, Benji, I wrote this beautiful poem, God is seated in man's soul. And it's just a long poem, but it explains where you see God. Although the night is dark, his presence can be seen in the sparkling lights. I'm not going to read, they have to go in and read it themselves. But the whole poem was about, you see God in the waterfalls, God in the mountainside, God in everything that he has created. If we would just be so grateful for being created because he loves us and he wants to give us all that, we can just do things for one another that would just change the world. There's a poem in the book that it's about every tear. If I had a dime for every human tear, I would be a compassionate trillionaire. And then I talked about what I would do with the money. And at the end of the book, there's a poem, and I bore fruit, finally, but the fruit that I bore is a lemon. And when the Lord said that I was a lemon, I was very disappointed. Because, you hear lemon, a part of a lemon, and this is a lemon. So in prayer, I asked him, I said, Lord, I'm a lemon? And this is what, Benji, this is the truth. I was walking, in those days, I lived in West Hills in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so I walked from my home to church every morning. It was a mile and a half and back. It was 3 miles. And then I would get dressed and go to work. But I'm walking and talking to the Lord and saying, but Lord, I'm a lemon. And he explained it to me in this way. He said, Madeline, lemons make a refreshing drink, and it gives flavor to food. You, Madeline, will give drink to my words for those who are thirsty, and you will be nourishing to those who need to hear your words. So that's what my poem is all about. It's about going within, and it's not just me. The love of God is within every human soul. But if we don't, as I said before, I don't want to repeat myself, but if we don't nurture it,
absolutely.
When we nurture it, and then there's a beautiful poem that I would recommend that you read. It's called Love. When I think of God, I think of love. You cannot, God, anyway, I don't want to recite it, but it's so beautiful because it talks about how when we reflect the love of God, it touches everyone around you. And that's why after my husband died, I got into ministry. I was very involved in Eucharistic ministry at the hospital. I ran a prayer group. I was in Magnificat Women for a fellowship. And I was because I wanted to give of myself. And so when we give of ourselves, it comes back to us double-fold. So that's what everyone needs to know. We are all part of God's world, and we are put together to learn from one another and to forgive and love. We don't always have to agree. We're different. One time I said to the Lord in my quiet time, I said, Lord, you know what? You made a mistake. You made everybody so different. The blacks are like the whites, and the whites are like the Puerto Ricans. And he said to me, Madeline, I'm infinite. No one could see if I only made one race would see me because I'm infinite. I'm in every human soul that is on the earth. It speaks to my heart, Benji, and that's where I get my poems from.
Listen, Magdalene, you are speaking to everyone's heart right now because what you're saying is so profound. And fantastic words of wisdom, right? To go back quickly to the message of you being a lemon, what I love about that, not only is it just a beautifully descriptive message, but also it lends to the notion of really perception being everything, right? Because yeah, from one instance in how you initially looked at it, you view yourself being a lemon and you're like, no, I'm sour, I'm distasteful. But then you shift perception and that exact same lemon is now a gift, is now something can actually be cherished. And that I think embodies so much, not only of your poetry, but fantastic messages for the world, right? And something that we all can benefit from. So listen, everyone listening in right now, if during this conversation you've had any moments where you felt that stir of recognition, when you felt that sense of a seed within you waiting for light, trust me when I tell you, man, Magdalene's book is your invitation to water it. This is something profound, man. And I'm going to say it again, although I know I don't have to. Remember, just for people say, yeah, don't forget, it's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, it's MagdalenePatriciaBalloy.com. Man, I'm telling you, this is a fantastic journey for you to embark upon. And it's a wonderful gift for you to get for someone else to add to their shelf as well. Magdalene, thank you for sharing your lyrical testimony and reminding us that, listen, this isn't about perfection. It is about paying attention to the love that's already planted within us. This is a remarkable book of poetry. Head on over, pick it up. Magdalene, listen, I really do mean it. You are the embodiment of a person of distinction, and this has been a true honor. Thank you for being a guest with us and discussing it all.
Thank you, Benji. I appreciate your understanding and your generosity and your sweet personality. It's been my pleasure, and I thank you for who you are.